I'm now going to tie a deer hair emerger, and this is tied onto a grub hook, and this is a size 14 grub hook, varying sizes, and the emerger part of it, this end of the fly will lie underneath the surface and the top end will float, and the fish hopefully will grab the emerging nymph end of it and give you a huge amount of pleasure. Brown power silk, catch him on behind the eye, tie him up the shank. Snip off the waist. And touching turns down the shank of the hook to quite a way round the bend. To about there. And then back up halfway. Now we put on some very, very fine copper wire, and we just catch that in with the power silk and tie him in. To there and back up again to 2/3 or 1/3 of the way behind the eye. Now we want to put on the body. So I lengthen the thread, and we're going to be putting on this spiky hare's ear type dubbing. And to get that onto the hook, we can't pinch and loop. We have got to put some dilly wax or some wax onto the thread, and I put some on the end of my finger like that and just smear him down the tying thread. Once that's on, we get the hare's ear dubbing and just work him onto the thread. Twist him on evenly down the thread between finger and thumb, just like that. Just twist him on. And then start tying down the thread. Just keep him twisted. And we want this to be sort of fairly spiky. It just works better when it's a good spiky body like that. And now we come back up the body, and to make sure, run the thread just down the body again to make sure it's well tied in, and back up and park the thread there. The copper wire now is wound round the body, and this also helps to secure the dubbing and to give a nice segmented, sparkly bit on the body to attract the fish. And we tie him in. Snip off the waist. Now from a swatch of deer hair, I cut off just a small wad, like that. And we lay this down the shank of the hook. But because it slips quite often, I just put on just a little dab of super glue. Sounds as though it's cheating, but really, this just stops it slipping on the shank of the hook. So we lay him on the shank and with a very light wrap, because the power silk can cut in now and actually cut the deer hair. So we put a few light wraps on before we start putting a bit of pressure. And as we put the pressure on, the deer hair starts to stand out. And then we build up like that. Now this end bit, which I've got in my fingers, we can cut off. Just snip that off with your scissors, discard the waste, and tie on. Now the super glue has really helped this to prevent it from slipping on the shank of the hook. Just tie that in. Now to cover this bit up and to also to help the fly float, we put some more dilly wax onto the thread, and we take just another little, not very much this time, piece of dubbing, just a slightly lighter colour I'm putting on there, and we tie that over where we cut off the deer hair. Now this is going to help it float. And then we come round to the front and we hold the deer hair forward and we bind in right behind the deer hair. And once again, just a little bit more dilly wax on the thread and a tiny bit of slightly darker dubbing now for the front. And this is up to you, the colour. You just use your imagination. Hold the deer hair forward again and wind on. And that will just help to make the deer hair stand forward like that, and just bind him in with the power silk like that. Form the head. And with your whip finish tool, three or four whips just behind the eye of the hook, like that. Slip the whip finish tool out, tighten him up, snip off the waist, and any little spare bits that you don't like, just nip them off. Finally, with a little head cement, just secure the whips. And there you have a deer hair emerger. A pretty deadly little fly. I catch a lot of fish with this. Super fly.